Lesson 54 is on adding and subtracting rational expressions. In 54, you're fortunate that all the denominators will be the same. Just like you would add and subtract a fraction, same thing here with rational expressions. When you add and subtract fractions, you need to have a common denominator. Well, it's the same thing with rational expressions. So here would be an example here with a fraction here. You have c and c. There's that common denominator. So basically, you get a denominator of c, and you'd add your numerator together. Subtraction, common denominator, write it on the bottom. A minus b is going to give you a minus b. So look for the common denominator, and in lesson 54, as mentioned, everything will have that common denominator. However, you do need to simplify your fractions, as you always do. So example 1 has a common denominator. That common denominator is 15mn. So once you have the common denominator, we bring it over here, and we go ahead and add our numerators. Our numerators would be 3m plus 5. And we couldn't add those together because they are not like terms. So there would be our answer for example 1. Example 2 has a common denominator. The common denominator in example 2 being 24x to the 4th power. So now we can go ahead and add those numerators. The numerators here, basically what we get is x plus 6y plus another binomial, which was x plus 4y. Well, we can go ahead and simplify this a bit more. You can combine some like terms in our numerator here. So our denominator will stay the same. Combine your like terms. You have a positive x and a positive x. You would get 2x, a positive 6y, and a positive 4y. That would be a positive 10y. Not finished still. Looks good, like everything would be solved and done. Only problem is, if you look at this expression up here, this is really a binomial. Well, that binomial, we can factor something out of the binomial. Here's where, like, reducing, let's say you had an answer of 4/6. 4/6 would reduce to 2/3. So same concept here. I'm going to go ahead and factor out a 2. When I factor out a 2, I'm left with x plus 5y. So if I actually distributed that 2 back in, I would come back to what we had up here, 2x plus 10y. Denominator is now 24x to the 4th power. Now if you look at this, you can take a 2 off the numerator, leaving you with 1, and a 2 off the denominator, leaving you with 12. So there's your simplification. So really what you have is x plus 5y on the top all over 12x to the 4th power. Now a lot of people are like, oh, can I take out an x? You cannot take out an x. Reason being is this top part is a binomial. I can't factor out an x out of each term to take it off the bottom. So your answer, x plus 5y over 12x to the 4th power. Same process with subtraction. So again, we see that we have the common denominator here. So we have our common denominator, and this is 30k plus 36. And here's where some confusion kind of comes into play sometimes. Really what you have is k minus 5, and you are subtracting by k plus 3. So if you wrote it like that, k minus 5, so k minus 5 we have, that's our first binomial, and we subtract by k plus 3, that's our second binomial. Really what's happening in this problem is you are distributing a negative 1. So we would actually have k minus 5, and then we'd come, after we distribute that negative sign, we get negative k and a negative 3. So now what you could go ahead and do is, once we write our common denominator here, is go ahead and combine any like terms. And the like terms that we would have here would be a positive k, negative k, so those k's would cancel out, leaving you with So we get negative 8 on the top, and this is over 30k plus 36. Still not finished here because I can see it in that binomial on the bottom. I'm able to factor, they're both even numbers, so I should be able to factor something out of that. So I'm going to go ahead and say I have negative 8 on the top. On the bottom, out of 30 and 36, I should be able to factor a 6 out. When I factor a 6 out, I have 5k plus 6. Now if you look at it, you can go ahead and reduce this. And off the top, I can take a 2 off the top and the bottom. So this is going to be a 4. And this would now be a 3. So my answer really is negative 4 over 3 parentheses 5k plus 6. Example 4 will be the same process here. We have subtraction. Again, we already have our common denominator. So here's that common denominator. So we have 10n minus 30. And maybe you want to go ahead and factor out the 10 right away. Might save you a step in the end. Basically what we have here is a monomial, 6n. And you are subtracting by a binomial, n plus 1. So again, what will happen here is you need to distribute that negative sign. And you have 6n minus n minus 1 all over. And I'm going to factor out a 10 on this. So I would wind up with n minus 3. Kind of put 2 steps into 1 there. And then I can go ahead and combine my like terms. So I'd have 6n positive, take away n. I would have 5n minus 1 all over 10 parentheses n minus 3. So actually, looking at this problem here, that binomial on the top, 5n minus 1, remember it's technically a binomial here, you're not able to factor anything out of that. So really, I cannot reduce this anymore. This would be my answer here for example number 4. This will conclude Lesson 54, adding and subtracting rational expressions with common denominators.